Hello YouTube, this is Randy with Esk8 for Old School, and I thought I'd share with you today my top 5 tips for beginners to building electric skateboards. So if you're going to take up this hobby, this is 5 tips that I think would have been helpful for me when I got started. Tip number 5, you want the amps output of your battery to be greater than the amps that your VESC can take, which should be greater than the amps that your motors might require. So this, bigger than this, bigger than this, in that order. So that's tip number 5. Tip number 4 is to use riser pads. If you have a skateboard with the profile of this board, where the trucks are mounted at an angle like this, you will find that when you turn, your turning radius won't be as sharp as you expect it to be. To fix this problem, use an angled pad like this one. Just mount it on there, and it will reduce the angle that your trucks are mounted at, and that will dramatically improve your ability to carve with your skateboard. Another great use of the riser pads, in addition to using the pads to get a better angle for your trucks, you can also use the pads, and these are 2 flat pads, you can also use pads to create more separation between the board and the motors. So I didn't need to do that in this case, but on my new build up there in the corner, I'm going to be using probably 2 pads like this to give me a little bit more clearance between the motor and the bottom of the board. So that's tip number 4, is to use riser pads. Tip number 3 is, when possible, use kits. Basically, a number of components that come together. For example, your wheel pulley and your wheel need to match in order for them to go together nicely. In addition to that, you want the size of your belt and the size of your motor mount to also match up properly, so that this whole assembly can come together nicely. In addition to that, certain motor mounts match up with the motors themselves, the size of the motor. So sometimes it's helpful to use a kit. I use the kit from Inboards. There are other kits that are available. Another place where a kit is nice is to have motor mounts that match up with your trucks. Not all motor mounts will mount to just any truck. I really like the Caliber 2 trucks. I don't like the motor mounts that come from Inboards, but these Caliber 2 motor mounts I like a lot. I'll leave a link in the description of the videos for those motor mounts. But that's tip number 3, is to buy components together that you know match up nicely, and that'll save you a lot of headache. Tip number 2 is to buy some skateboarding shoes. These are not skateboarding shoes. I bought these shoes for exercise, and as a result, in one fall, I got a nice little tear in my shoe. Skateboarding shoes will do a nice job of resisting tears like these. So tip number 2, along with other gear that you should be wearing for safety purposes, knee pads, elbow pads, wrist guards, and a helmet, it's also a good idea to get skateboarding shoes. That's tip number 2. Tip number 1 is soldering. Soldering, if you're new to it, can be challenging. But the thing that's good to know about soldering is that though it can be challenging, soldering tends to be quite forgiving. You'll see in the next part of this video where I am soldering the components that are required for the VESC that I use in my new build. I make a lot of mistakes, but in the end, I wrap electrical tape around those mistakes and everything works. It's not pretty. Actually, I can't wait to finish it up. So tip number 1, soldering is challenging, but it's not as bad as it looks. The next part of this video, I'm going to show you in fast motion, my soldering of the components for that skateboard. I hope you enjoy it. Please like, share, subscribe, leave me comments, let me know things that I can do better. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the video. Oh, I forgot. There is two more things that I wanted to share. One, I went for a ride today. During my ride, I'm practicing learning how to do jumps. My feet are in the straps right here, and I'm, just using my feet to lift the board off the ground, doing little mini jumps. I know it sounds lame, but it's still kind of scary for me to do. So I've been practicing a little bit. And an interesting thing that happened is that this XT60 connection from my battery box to my VESC got disconnected. So I'm going down this hill and all of a sudden I have no brakes. Fortunately, I was on a part of the road. It was easy for me to find an uphill that I could use to stop myself, but it did make me think that I need to be a little bit more careful about making sure that this thing doesn't get disconnected when I'm practicing my jumps. It also made me realize that having this wire go underneath the board, to the vest that sits on the bottom is probably a safer configuration. And of course, that is part of the design of the new board hanging on the wall there. The second interesting thing that happened, there's two LiPo batteries in here. One of them is very good. The other one is questionable. And I kind of was figuring out that one of them is gonna die soon because it just never held charge very well. I was at 50% battery and I rode around for like another 10 minutes. And when I got back home, my battery level was at 8%. And right now it's actually showing 15%, which I've never ridden it down that low before. And there's no way it should have lost that much power in that short of time. That is probably indicative that that other battery is probably dead now. So I'm going to try to charge this battery and see what happens. But I don't think it's going to last much longer. Fortunately, I did order some new batteries from a different source a few days ago. So I will have some replacement for these batteries coming very soon. That replacement source is another Chinese company. So one of the things that I'm going to do is in a future video, I'm going to share with you the source of supplies from Chinese companies that I've found to be reliable. I think that's valuable knowledge, but I will share with you the companies that I've learned to trust from the service that I've gotten from them. Anyway, I just wanted to share that little bit extra with you. Please enjoy the rest of the video.